If you've been diagnosed with mesothelioma and you're considering pursuing legal action, you'll probably speak with one or more asbestos attorneys. But how do you know if you're talking to the right one? With this whole world being new to you, how can you evaluate their experience, understand how they handle cases, and determine if they're the right fit for you? Today, I want to give you the essential questions you should ask any mesothelioma lawyer before hiring them. Questions that will help you find competent, experienced representation and avoid firms that aren't qualified to handle these complex cases. I'm Terry Oppenheimer. I've been writing about mesothelioma and asbestos for the website mesothelioma.net for over a decade. I am not an attorney and this is not legal advice, but asking the right questions helps you make informed decisions about legal representation. Let's start with the most fundamental question. How many mesothelioma cases have you handled? You want specifics, not vague answers. An experienced mesothelioma attorney should have handled dozens or even hundreds of cases. If they say they handle asbestos cases but can't give you a specific number of mesothelioma cases, they might in fact be general personal injury attorneys without real mesothelioma expertise. That's not to say they're not good lawyers, but mesothelioma cases are legally complex. They require specialized knowledge about asbestos-containing products, the companies that manufactured them and distributed them, exposure timelines, and medical evidence. Experience always matters, but in these cases, it matters enormously. The follow-up question is, how many mesothelioma cases have you personally handled versus your firm overall? Some large firms have mesothelioma divisions, and the specific attorney you're talking to might be new. You want to know about both the firm's experience and the individual lawyer's experience. The next thing you want to ask is about the percentage of their mesothelioma cases that go to trial versus settling out of court. That's what happens to most mesothelioma cases, and that's often in the client's best interest. Settlements are completed faster and they avoid the risk and stress of a trial. But you want an attorney who's willing and able to take cases to trial when a settlement amount that's been offered is inadequate. If an attorney says they settle 100% of cases, they might be taking lowball settlements rather than fighting for full value. If they say they take most cases to trial, they might be unnecessarily prolonging cases and racking up the costs. A balanced approach, mostly settlements, but trial ready when needed, is ideal. Now, I'm going to take a break here and ask you a quick favor. If you find these videos helpful, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. It makes it easier for other people who need this information to find us. Also, if you have questions or there's a topic you'd like to see addressed in a future video, send me a note in the comments section. And make sure you watch until the end, because I'm going to give you valuable information on where to find resources that will make a real difference for you. The next thing you want to know is what are typical settlement or verdict amounts for cases like yours. No attorney can guarantee a specific amount without reviewing your case, but experienced mesothelioma attorneys can give you ranges based on similar cases. Average mesothelioma settlements, they range from about $1 million to $2.4 million, and verdicts sometimes go higher. If an attorney promises you'll definitely get millions, I'm sorry, but they're being dishonest. If they can't give you any sense of typical ranges, they might lack experience. Ask specifically, what factors affect settlement amounts in mesothelioma cases? The answer they give you should include things like the strength of evidence linking your exposure to specific defendants, your work history and documentation, your age and dependence, state laws where the case is filed, and whether defendants are bankrupt or have active operations. If they don't list these elements, they probably haven't been exposed to enough mesothelioma claims. The next question is about their fee structure and what costs you should expect. Mesothelioma attorneys work on contingency. That means you don't pay unless you win. But the percentage they take can vary. Typical contingency fees are 33 to 40% of any settlement or verdict. So you want to ask what exactly their contingency percentage is, and if it increases if the case goes to trial versus settling. You want to know who pays for case costs like filing fees, expert witnesses, medical records, and investigations, and are those deducted before or after the fee? And what happens to costs if you don't win? Reputable firms typically advance all costs and only recover them from settlements. If the firm asks you to pay for costs up front, that's a major red flag. Next question should be, how long do mesothelioma cases typically take? Timeline matters because mesothelioma patients often don't have years to wait for a resolution. Many cases settle within 6 to 18 months. Some take longer if they go to trial, and some states have expedited proceedings for terminally ill plaintiffs. Ask the attorney what the typical timeline is from filing to settlement in their experience, whether the state has expedited proceedings for mesothelioma cases, and what can be done to move the case along as quickly as possible. If an attorney suggests that cases routinely take 3, 4, or 5 years, they might not be prioritizing mesothelioma cases appropriately. Next question is, are you handling my case personally, or will it be assigned to other attorneys? Again, at large firms, the attorney you meet initially might not be the one handling day-to-day casework. That's not necessarily bad if the firm has a strong team, but you should know who's going to actually be working on your case. Ask who will be the primary contact for you, whether you're going to be working with that attorney directly or with paralegals and associates, and how accessible they're going to be for questions. You want a firm that's responsive and treats you as a priority, not one where you can never reach anyone or get updates. The next question, how are they going to investigate your asbestos exposure? Strong mesothelioma cases require a detailed investigation of when, where, and how you were exposed, which specific asbestos products you worked with, which companies manufactured those products, and then they will connect your medical diagnosis to that exposure history. Ask them, what resources do they have for investigating your exposure history? Do they have asbestos product databases? Do they work with industrial hygienists or other experts? How do they identify the defendants that should be included in your claim? Experienced mesothelioma firms have extensive databases of asbestos products, work sites, and corporate histories. They have investigators who can track down witnesses and documentation. If a firm seems vague about investigation, it might lack the resources you need for a thorough case development. Ask them, based on your preliminary exposure history, which defendants they're most likely to pursue in your case. Mesothelioma cases often involve multiple defendants, manufacturers of asbestos products, employers, premises owners, and others. Some defendants are bankrupt and they pay through asbestos trust funds, while others are active companies that settle or defend in court. The best attorneys pursue all available avenues. So you want to ask whether they'll pursue trust fund claims in addition to litigation and how they maximize recovery from all available sources. Ask about their success rate with mesothelioma cases. Specifically, what percentage of their mesothelioma cases result in compensation for clients? What's the average settlement their firm obtains? And can they provide references from past clients? A reputable attorney should be able to provide outcome statistics, and they're probably willing to connect you with former clients who are willing to share their experiences. You want to ask whether they're licensed to practice in your state, and if not, how that's going to affect your case. Mesothelioma cases are often filed in specific states based on where the asbestos exposure occurred or where the defendants are located. If the attorney isn't licensed in the relevant state, they're going to need to work with local counsel. So ask where they're licensed, where your case will be filed, and who they're going to work with locally if need be. Also find out whether there will be additional fees for local counsel. Next question. What do you need from me and what should I expect during the process? Understanding what the lawyer expects upfront of you prevents surprises. Ask what documentation you need to provide, whether you're going to need to give depositions or testimony, how much of your time the whole process is going to require, and what happens if your health declines during the case. Good attorneys understand that mesothelioma clients are dealing with serious illness, and they structure their casework with that in mind. They'll burden you as little as possible. I know this one's hard to ask, but you want to know what happens if you pass away before your case is resolved. Mesothelioma cases can continue as wrongful death claims, so you'll want to ask about your family continuing the case if you pass away, how that will affect the case or potential compensation, and what you need to do legally to ensure your family can pursue this. Finally, trust your instincts. Beyond these specific questions, pay attention to how the attorney treats you. Do they listen to your concerns? Do they explain things in understandable terms without using a lot of legal jargon? Do they seem genuinely concerned about your well-being, or are they just interested in signing you as a client? Are they respectful of your time and your illness? Do they pressure you to sign immediately, or do they give you time to consider? You should feel comfortable with your attorney, and you should be confident that they have your best interests at heart. If something feels wrong, talk to other firms before making a decision. To review, essential questions for mesothelioma attorneys include: how many mesothelioma cases have you handled personally? What's your trial versus your settlement rate? What are your typical settlement amounts and what factors affect them? What's your fee structure and who pays costs? What's the typical timeline? Who will handle my case day to day? How will you investigate my exposure? Which defendants will you pursue? What's your success rate? Are you licensed in my state? What will you need from me? What happens if I pass away? Interview multiple attorneys, verify their credentials, and trust your instincts. You can visit mesothelioma.net for more information about legal rights and compensation, or call 1-800-692-8608 or use the live chat feature on our website to speak to one of our patient advocates. As for me, remember to post your questions below, and I'll see you next time.